Africa is talking. And our core mission is to empower software engineers across Africa to build successful and sustainable businesses. So for us, it's not just about writing great code or using the coolest products. It's about empowering you to build great businesses at the end of the day. So our footprint so far is, we're in 19 countries. We've been working really hard over the past 2 years to expand our services across the continent. Now we have about 60,000 developers actually on the platform, and we handle about over 55 million API calls in a day. That's just to show you the kind of engineering work that Tony and the engineering team, the kind of stuff they're managing on a day-to-day basis. And we support 6,000 businesses as well. Our products range from SMS. So how do you reach your customers through SMS? How do you create interactive experiences using two-way SMS? These are the services we provide. For USSD, we essentially provide a simple interface for you to be able to create your own USSDs. So if you've used Safaricom star 544, or you've used any of the USSDs to do anything, this is something you can do by yourself, and in fact quite cheaply. For voice, we allow you to build intelligent cloud applications. So they allow you to, instead of typing or using an actual application which may need data, you can actually provide certain features and services to your customers or to your users using voice. It allows you to do a ton of things from it has a text-to-speech engine, so it can read out kind of like the stuff you want your customers to hear. You can record messages and play it out to them. You can record messages. It's a fully featured platform for you to build really interesting experiences for customers. I won't talk about payments because we've kind of slowed down our payments services. They may not. So I guess Ian will record the session. Might not be me. And then airtime. So airtime is a product that allows you to send pinless airtime. So you essentially just send bulk airtime to as many users as you want. So this is mostly useful for stuff like reward systems, or disbursing airtime to your employees or something of that nature. These are some of the companies that I know like use Africa Stalking on a day-to-day basis. So Branch, Tala, Pesapal, Copia, Vivo Energy, Zuku, like almost anyone you can think of is using. Even the government itself, some government services are using Africa Stalking whether it's for SMS or USSD or anything of that nature. We are the core providers for most of these services. These are our partners. So our business is essentially a business around aggregation. So we aggregate telco services. So we've partnered with Vodacom. Vodacom is the Safaricom of the rest of Africa. And then you have MTN Group. We don't have MTN in Kenya, but MTN is pretty big in the rest of Africa. We also have Safaricom KE, a crazy business out here. And then we have Airtel as well. So these are some of the solutions you can essentially build on top of Africa Stalking. So we've kind of tried to aggregate what we've seen our customers do with our services, and it revolves around these four kind of ideals. So this customer support. So how do you manage customer inquiries? Managing stuff like marketing. So how do you reach your customers efficiently? I think it's always important to remember that being in Africa, a lot of people are not on the internet that often. So sometimes Google Ads and some of these things may not be very effective, especially for mass market products where you want to reach everybody from the top of society to the lowest part. So SMS becomes like a very interesting tool. I know this is changing over time, but yeah, it's essentially something that you need to keep in mind when you're building a business. Because even in tech, you're still building a business. It's all about how do you make sales. So also a question of how do you generate new leads for your business. This often happens through SMS, through robocalls, through engagement platforms like USSD that make it easier for somebody to do just basic things on your product. And then yeah, we also offer stuff like innovation as a service. So like one of the things that we're very proud of is that we always try to speak to developers and try to help them figure out like what problems they could solve in the market. Yes, you're building on top of our solution, but we want to encourage you to like start solving challenges across across any of the industries, and we'll provide insights, business support, and even sometimes depending on the kind of challenges that you have, you could be getting a USSD code for free for about a couple of months and things like that, just to get you up and running if you have a really good business plan. So people use us in fintech to send alerts to customers whenever they if you've ever been taking a loan from Tala or branch, you know how keen they are to send you those messages to remind you to pay your loans. So most of those messages are coming through our platform. We also promotional messages which allow you to essentially reach out to customers. We have an offer today, and we get a ton of those messages on a daily basis. Sometimes they're useful, I know sometimes they're not. And also OTP, so one-time password. So you might have seen this, especially if you're using Firebase before, there's the two-factor authentication system they have. But sometimes you may not be using Firebase. I promise you that when you're starting your own business, first you might try to use Firebase at first, but the costs get quite heavy. So you might have to rely on your own to build out your own like two-factor authentication platforms. And these OTP messages are, you can use Africa Stockholm to generate some of these things. The insurance industry, agriculture guys. We have an IoT platform as well that we are trying to see how people can utilize this in the agriculture, in the agri-tech sector. And also voice is quite powerful in agriculture because you're reaching a segment of society that's not may not be very educated. So sometimes listening to a message is more useful to them than reading a message. Construction and manufacturing. So how do you pay casual laborers? If you've ever thought about it, it's quite a complicated affair. You have maybe 200 guys working on your project, and you need to pay them. They get paid weekly or daily. So you need to, if you can automate that process, using part of our payment system to centralize the wallet, and easy reconciliation, that really simplifies work. And these are kind of business ideas as well for you guys to pick out and pitch to people around you. I believe starting a business starts with your own community first before you go and try and conquer the world. Yeah, gaming as well. Gaming is quite fascinating. So guys in betting use our platforms quite a lot, especially to reach out to, you need to reach out to a ton of people at very specific times. Tell them, lazima ujue kama bet slip imeiva ama haijaiva. Yeah, so that's just a brief introduction to our services and who we are. And yeah, you can reach out to us with any of these contacts. But I'd love to take this to Tony. Tony will now take you to the technical side of this, and then towards the end we'll kind of have a Q&A session and go over a few other things that we think would be really cool for you guys to know about. Okay, Tony.
Yeah, thanks, Limo. Hi, guys. I'm going to share my screen now. Yeah, Limo, you can see my screen. Orion, anyone please confirm?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So today I just want to take you through a brief intro to SMS and USSD. We are going to talk about one-way and two-way SMS, as well as how to create USSD applications. So first of all, we have sender IDs, which are also called alphanumerics. They're used to send one-way SMSs. So let's say you've ever received a login code from Google, Uber, or whichever service really, then the company was most likely using a sender ID, or from M-Pesa, just any company. They're really easy to identify a company because they contain the name of the company. But they are one way, so users are not able to reply the message to the message. So to counter this, we have what are called shortcodes. Shortcodes are used for two-way SMSs. They're usually 5 digits or 6 digits. They're two-way, that means users can reply to the message, but because they do not have the name of the company, it's not that easy to identify the organization they belong to. So moving on, we have USSD service codes. I'm sure you have all used this, maybe to buy airtime, star 544 hash, or yeah, any of those. So we have two examples of USSD codes. The first one is star 200 dash. This is a dedicated code, which means you kind of own it, like it's yours. Then we have what is called a shared code. So there's star 400 star 2 hash. So shared in that one person might have star 400 star 2 hash, another person might have star 400 star 3 hash. So both of you are using star 400 hash, but here in the channel it's changing because all of you are sharing the same. So they're great in that you do not need a smartphone to use them. If you are using a feature phone, super easy to use. You do not need to go to the Play Store, App Store to download an application. Yeah, they just work so fast. But if you design them poorly, then they can be difficult to be usable by your users. So moving on, we are gonna jump into some code. I'm gonna show you guys how to send a one-way SMS, how to send two SMSs, how to create USSD applications. I'm going to use JavaScript for this, so I hope all of you are familiar with JavaScript. Yeah, so if you are not familiar with JavaScript, I'm going to be using Node.js. So I think my internet is a bit slow. If you're not familiar with Node.js, just search for Node.js and then go to the download page. This, if you are more familiar with Python, PHP, just this is the quickest way you can get started with Node.js. So just search for Node.js, go to this download page and download it for your laptop. So if you're using Windows, macOS, or Linux, and then install it. So once you've installed this, if you open your terminal and you just check for the version, I think you should see like, yeah, this version is installed, and that's it. I mean, yeah, notice you can just run Node.js, JavaScript files here, and they should work. So that's all you need to get started. So secondly, we are going to be using this GitHub repo. It's called AT demos. So it contains a collection of demos. So we're going to share this URL with you later. Inside you'll find some folders. For example, this is for sender ID. This one is for two-way shortcodes. This one is for USSD. Just contains the code that I'm going to show you today, so that maybe in your own free time you can walk through it. If you miss something, you can just try to remember. There are also some YouTube videos in case you miss something that I spoke about. You can just watch them later. So feel free to clone this. Feel free to start or fork this. But I've already cloned this, so I'm just gonna jump right into my VS Code. And the first thing that I'm going to open is the sender ID. I'm going to start with this. So if you preview the README, open preview, this is what you're going to be building. So we are going to create a sender ID called money, which is kind of like M-Pesa. And we are just going to send a message that says, confirmed you have received this amount of money from this person. So here are the instructions to get started. The first thing is you need to get an API key. So an API key will act like a password. So anytime you send a request via code, then you'll be putting in your API key instead of putting in your password. So to get your API key, then you need to come to africaistalking.com. So just come to africaistalking.com and log in to your account. So just a minute as this loads. Yeah, I think my internet is a bit slow today. Sorry about that. So just log in into your account. And then if you have never used this before, you'll notice that we have two things here. We have the sandbox and then we have teams. So if you are still in testing, if you are still in development mode, you are going to be using the sandbox. Anytime you decide you want to go to production, you want to go live, then you just create a team and create your app. So for now, I'm just going to jump into the sandbox for testing. And then to get my API key, just come to settings, API key. So just input your password here and then click on generate. I'm going to copy this because I'll need it later. So in case you're wondering, wow, he went so fast, I do not remember how to get the API key. Don't worry. If you scroll down to the README, here is the link to get the API key. The API key, I'll paste in the API key that I copied, and then my send ID, which is money, which I just created. The next file here is index.js. So this is quite simple. I'm just importing Africa is talking from the Africa is talking package, and then I'm importing the constants that I just created. After that, I initialize the Africa is talking function by passing in the username and the API key. And then I call the send function on the SMS key. I specify the phone number here using the to key. I specify the message. The message I've already written this. It just says confirmed you have received 50,000 from Richie Rich and so on. And then from I specify it as the send ID, which is my send ID. This returns a promise, so I listen to it, and in case that it's successful, I just say console log sent, and in case there is an error, I catch it and console log the error. So if I just right click on this and open it in the terminal, that's by doing npm start. So this will run it. So fingers crossed this works. Yeah, you should see sent and sent to 1 of 1, the cost is 0.8 Kenya shillings. So if I open my messages here, you should see there's a new message here, return confirmed, you have received 50,000. That's the new message, and it's using my send ID. So you might be wondering, how do you do bulk SMS? Let's say I have 50 people I want to send these SMSs to. So this simple, just convert this to an array, add the phone numbers here. Maybe you can add another country phone number, you can add another one here. As many phone numbers as you want. You can do 100, you can do 1,000. The way our services are built is that all of these messages will be sent at once in parallel. So it's not like we're going to send to this person first, then to this person first. No, we really try to ensure that there's uptime for you. So yeah, just you can send as many to as many people as you want. So the message, you can update it maybe to read hello world, and just, and if you run npm start, send to 103, and there's the cost, and you should see the new message here, hello world. And yeah, that's it for the send IDs. So that's how you send bulk SMS to as many people as possible. So yeah, I'm gonna jump now into two-way. How do you do two-way communications? So if I preview the README for this is what we'll be building today. We'll be using the shortcode 97531. It's a weather chatbot, so we'll be asking it, what's the weather? And it should reply by saying the weather today is, yeah, this and this. We can ask it, what is the temperature? And it should reply by saying the temperature today is this and this. So yeah, this is what we are going to be building. So jumping into the instructions, you need to download ngrok. So if you've never used ngrok before, I'm going to copy that URL and open it in my browser. So I'm just assuming that some of you have tried to develop servers before, maybe using PHP and Node.js, and you usually get something like localhost and then a port, localhost 7575, localhost 3000. So usually this URL is not shareable to people because it's just on your machine. So you need it to be accessible by people so that they can go to maybe google.com from their own phones and be able to access it. So this is what ngrok does. It just tunnels your localhost to a shareable URL. Just go to this URL, download it for your machine, follow the instructions on how to set it up. And yeah, so I already have my line of code here, so I'm gonna run it. Don't worry, just follow these instructions. You should be able to get it up and running. So it's connecting. Wow, my internet is really slow today. But yeah, you can see this is now online. And here's how it's forwarding. So if someone accesses tikimadi.ngrok.io, they should be channeled to my localhost port 3000. So yeah, so that's it. Next, we need to start ngrok. We have already started it. Next, we need to get the API key. We already got the API key from our previous exercise. Next, we need to create our shortcode. So again, remember, here are the links for everything that I'm doing, so don't worry about that. So to create the shortcode, just go to our dashboard. It's the dashboard. Here we go. Go to SMS again. Go to shortcodes, my shortcodes. So here, in case you have not noticed, here are all the products. So usually use the dashboard for everything. So if you want voice, USSD, just use the dashboard for everything. So we need to create a shortcode. I've already created it, but in case you need to create one, just let me copy that. Click on create a shortcode, enter the shortcode that you want to do. It should be 4 or 5-digit numbers, and click on submit. And then the next thing that you need to do is update the webhook accordingly. So the webhook is where anytime Africa's Token receives a new message from your customer, where do they forward this message to? So they need to have a URL of your server. So that's what we mean by the webhook or the callback URLs. So if you come here to SMS callback URLs and you click on incoming messages, then you can see I've already set my webhook to be tikimadi.ngrok.io, and then this is the endpoint /webhook/SMS. So this is where you shouldn't update your webhook. You can just put in your webhook, maybe something.com/SMS. So anytime there is a new message, Africa's Token will be sending the request to this webhook that you have specified here. Great. The next thing is we need to open the simulator. We already opened the simulator, then we can now jump into the code. So if I open my source folder, you notice I have 4 files now. These are a bit more. The first folder is the concepts.js. So a minute. Yeah, sorry about that. So the first file is the constants.js. Just like the previous one, it contains, we export the username, which is specified to be sandbox, the API key. There's the API key I copied earlier. I'm going to paste it there. Then there's the shortcode which I've created, which is this one here. I'm going to paste it there. Next, we have a get weather file. So this exports a get weather function. For now, it's just a dummy function. It just exports. The description is light intensity drizzle. The temperature is this, the pressure is this, humidity is this. So for now, it's just dummy values. But I mean, this can be a challenge for you guys. It can be a more creative function whereby you call an API. So I have written this line of code here whereby you can, if you open this, wow, internet today, sorry about that. So this is an open API. It's free. It gives you current weather location for over 200,000 cities. So you can be doing an API call to this, and you can be asking someone, where is your city? They can say, I'm in Nairobi, and they can feel free to grab the SDK. You do not have to code in JavaScript. If you code in Java, Ruby, .NET, PHP, we support all of the languages. So yeah, and a lot of people are using these SDKs. We support a lot of languages. So VB, Go. If you use Android, if you want Rust, there's some really cool stuff here. So yeah, just go through them, and yeah, hope that answers your question.
Okay, that answers my question. So I think we have another question. So maybe I can relate it back to you, Tony. So someone's asking for you to explain the difference between URL encoded, extended, being false, and being true.
I think I can take that question.
Okay.
Yeah, so what this essentially tells, this is specific to Express. So essentially what this allows the application to do is to, if you set it to false, it only accepts a particular format of information. So if it's JSON, it will take JSON. So if you get something in any different format, it kind of won't understand it. But when you set it to true, it essentially accepts any type of key pair value format that shows up to the application. Remember, like Africa Stocking sends the data in several formats. You can get it in form data, or you can get it in JSON. So it just helps you make sure that whichever format you get it in, you're gonna still get the same variables from Africa Stocking. That's just the purpose behind it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that response, Lima. So I think there's another question. I think this time I can ask it to Tony. So someone's asking, what did you mean by *200# being a dedicated code?
Yeah, so maybe if I may paste this. So we have, for example, *200, and then we have *200 *123#. So I've pasted this in the chat box. The first one is a dedicated code. The second one is a shared. So what dedicated means, for example, is that you own that short code. So *200# is yours. So *544# is yours. But shared one, that means you just own the channel. So for example, *200 *123 is one channel. You can also have *200 *456#. That can be another channel. So you're just paying for this channel. So a lot of people are using this *200, but you know, they're on different channels. *200 *4# *200 *5#. Yeah, like, so the reason why we provide shared the codes is because dedicated codes are really expensive. So for people who do not have maybe the money, so maybe just to showcase this, let me just share my screen. Might be a bit easier to understand. Can see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so for example, for USSD, a shared USSD cost, to set it up, it's free, and then per month you just pay 5,800. So, but for a dedicated one, to set it up, it's 145,000. And this is not us asking for the money. This is Safaricom saying this is the amount you need to pay. For Airtel, it's 116,000. So dedicated codes such as *544# are so expensive. So to try and offset that cost, we offer people the option to just have a shared one. So you might have *44, *544, *2#. So you're sharing with other people. The code is much longer, but it's much cheaper. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thanks for that response. Any other question?
Yeah, feel free to ask any question, not necessarily related to the session we have had today. If you want to ask about internships, if you want to ask how is life at IT, there's just the opportunity. Feel free to reach out. Limo will be helpful to answer.
Okay, maybe I can ask a question. So I think someone suggested that we talk about internships. So maybe Limo can talk internships. Limo.
I guess yes. Let me just take that. So about internships, we take interns every year. So we train them for a period of around 3 months to 4 months. We pay our interns, but I guess this year we were not able to take any interns because of the corona situation. So hopefully next year we'll go back to taking interns. So yeah, so skills required. We take different interns so for example, we take interns for software engineering, whereby you just show like you have skills, how to code. We do not necessarily we do not necessarily require you to code in PHP or JavaScript. We Yeah.
You can tell them your story. You're an intern who graduated into a full-time member, so it'd be interesting for them to know what happened.
Yeah, I remember there were so many people, some colleagues who came just coding in PHP, others coding JavaScript. But as long as you show like you have the ability to learn, like you can learn, so you'll be taken. We take interns for business, so there were people who joined who were able to learn how to handle clients. There are people who are taken to handle accounts. So we take a huge range of interns. So yeah, reach out to Imo. I think he shared his email address. I'm going to share it in the
Yeah.
chat box.
Yeah, just to give you a perspective on the internship. For us, the key thing that we look for is teachability, like how how much, as Tony said, just how, like, are you willing to learn? And then the second thing as well is, do you fit into our culture? And we take you through. Tony went through a very interesting process throughout. It doesn't mean that you have to be, look a particular way, do a particular thing. In fact, Tony is among the only people in our office who wear suits. I still see it in his profile. But it's really about, like, are you able to be agile and really take your be willing to, like, extend your capabilities beyond what you think you can do. When a lot of the interns come in, they may not understand, like, what they're getting themselves into. But if you're willing to stretch yourself, you're going to have a really fun time. You're going to be asked to do very difficult work sometimes, but that means, it just means that you have to step up to the plate every single time you're asked to do it. Tony is one of those examples. So a good role model to look up to. But yeah, I think we're going to be opening up our internship probably Q2 next year. So that's about in May. So I'll just keep your options open.
Okay, I think now since we are talking about internship, I also want to ask, like, what's the internship? Okay,
Sorry?
like, what process does one go through while applying for the internship at Africa?
Okay. So what we do is that we have an open call. Normally what happens is we send out a link. You go through like a basic process. We want to know your temperament. We want to know your temperament. We want to understand your coding skills as well. But most of those things, there's a big filter. So normally we get about 1,200 applications every time, and we can only take about 10, interns at a time. So going through that entire process, you have to be filtered through the initial system. After that process, you now go into code challenges for the people who are software engineers. For those who are not software engineers, there's a whole different process that guides them as well. We want to know your business and your understanding of business. Like, how do you build particular things? How do you think about customers? How do you think about, generally just your understanding of business in general? So once that has happened, you're filtered down. They're group activities. You're going to have a good time nonetheless. It's not a process where like you're seated in a room with a guy and it's like hammering questions at you. No, it's often quite a group. It's a group process. You're often in groups and you're doing things together. And we try to pick out the people who stand out, the leaders, the people who can actually like articulate their understanding of particular problems and things like that. So those are really the things that really matter to us. We believe at Africa Stocking, everybody is a leader, everybody is a founder. It's not like you're an employee. Your mentality every single day should be like, you're building something, not only for the company but also for yourself, and you stand up for the things you believe in. Those are the things we kind of like really look out for. And we've been very lucky over the past couple of years. A lot of the employees who are at Africa Stocking actually came from internships. We very rarely do hire from just asking for CVs for software engineers and stuff. We like interns because they understand what we're trying to do from the ground up, and you can actually gel into the system a lot better than an external person. So it's a big opportunity for each one of you on this call. So just look into those things. Not only your coding skills, you need to be a really good engineer. That's not a question. Be really good at that, but also work on the soft skills. Work on how you view yourself, how you present yourself. Don't be shy. Don't come into an interview shy, because that just makes us feel like, how are we gonna work with you when the moment you get into, in fact, Tony can expound more on the experience, but even during the whole internship, you're not treated like an intern. You're treated like an employee full time. We don't play around. We'll throw a whack at you. We'll really put you into the hot seat for a while. But Tony can expand on the experience even after you get into the internship.
Yeah, I guess what Limo said, I guess one of the really cool stuff is that you're not really paid an intern salary. You're not paid because you're an intern, you're paid just a mega salary. Actually paid a good salary. I guess the competitive part is because there is a lot of competition. You are interviewing with other people who are really skilled. So you just need to bring your A game, show that you have the capability. But once you join, it's really fun. You get to learn a lot. You get to work with a lot of people, a lot of smart people. I guess, as you said, the interview process is not hard. I remember I was interviewed by just guys in t-shirts. I mean, everyone is just cool. No one has a lot of pressure on you. Just bring your A game, show them what you love doing. So, and then you are given the opportunity to do whatever you want. So for example, for me, I really liked teaching. So I was given the opportunity to just be given back to universities, just doing such sessions. So yeah, you have a lot of areas that you can grow in, and the team is always ready to support you. So really cool place to work, guys.
Okay, I think thanks for sharing that experience and all of that. I think most of us might apply for such positions. I think it's a good opportunity to grow as a software developer and also to grow on experience. So I think we've handled most of the questions. So I think I'll hand it over back to Ian. Ian, over. Oh, yeah. Someone's asking. I think we have another question. Someone's asking if you can mentor them. Maybe you can talk about like personal mentoring, like if you mentor people, how do you do it? So maybe you can start with Tony, then Lima.
So at AT, I guess I've not mentored anyone, but there's a program called GADS. Has anyone heard of GADS? Which is the Google Africa Developer Scholarship. So there's a program containing people from all over Africa. I think there are more than 30,000. So yeah, I was one of the mentors there. So I guess that's one of the mentorship experiences that I've been through personally. Limo?
Sorry, I didn't get that question quite well.
So let me repeat. So someone's asking about like mentoring others. So maybe I can ask you if you mentor people and how do you do it?
But for me, I think it just depends because also mentorship is a complicated scenario because of time. We still have work to do on a day-to-day basis. I mostly mentor startups, so I kind of help startups figure out their business model and also the technology they should use to go into the market. I think mentorship is one of those things where in the beginning when you're starting out, it's easier to be part of a broader community. So I think the ALC community is quite good, and the learning community. There's a lot of good people around there, an international community to like help out whenever you have these great ideas. I think there's also attending some of our events really helps, because mentorship may not be like you call me at any time you want for me to answer your questions, but rather like having every month or so being part of an event where we can answer some of your questions, and you're trying to build a business, you're trying to put something into the market, you're trying to figure out what technology you should be using to solve particular problems. Those are things I'd love to chat about. And for me, mentorship is interesting because I'm super young. I'm not like a 45-year-old man. I'm still quite young. So it's about a two-way experience as well. So building a relationship with the person who you want to mentor, who want to be your mentor. It's a peer-to-peer kind of situation. I prefer that kind of scenario compared to talking to people and telling them what to do. So that's kind of the experience. Africa Stocking is always happy to like have chats with developers around the businesses you're willing to build. I mean, we've mentored a ton of businesses, not talking to them every day, but whenever they needed a certain kind of help, whether it's getting a certification from somewhere or getting this or figuring out the technology, we're always happy to have those conversations. But beyond that, it's quite look at mentorship from a perspective of like it's a learning experience both ways, because I'm also quite keen to learn what you guys are interested in and technologies you guys are using, and how that can influence the future of business and things like that. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Okay, thanks for that, Limo. So I think since we talked about mentorship, I'd like to also ask a question like, how can people reach out to you if maybe someone has an idea but doesn't know how to start and all that? Maybe you can explain a little bit on how people can reach out to you. So maybe you can start with Limo.
My email address is already in the chat. You can email me any day. You can also reach out to me on Twitter, Facebook, anywhere really, and I'll kind of like find the best way to help you out. That's kind of my job as developer relations, helping out developers. So on email it would be much better because I can easily track those conversations. If you text me on WhatsApp, I'm now mixing personal life and business at that point. But on email, it's a lot easier to track these conversations. Yeah.
Okay, maybe Tony.
Oh yeah. So I shared my Twitter account earlier. You can reach out on my Twitter there, or my email address is this. So yeah, happy to talk to you guys.
Okay, thanks for that. I think we had a good Q&A session. So maybe I can hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Cliff. And thank you everybody for who have been have attended the session from start to finish. Definitely a recorded session will be available. Before just I give my gratitude, anybody with a comment, question, just want to ask, can just comment out with a +1 on the chat session so that we can give you just time to unmute yourself and say anything. Or if somebody that is outside from Kenya and want clarification about each country configuration and availability of Africa tokens and services, can just comment a +1. Anybody not from Kenya want clarification on the country?